It was thin and worn, as if even the sound had almost given up. Nathan Cole pulled his horse to a stop. Out on this lonely trail, no child should have been crying. Yet the sound came again, carried across the cold air. If stories about courage and second chances mean something to you, stay with this one. Some rides begin as ordinary days and end by changing every life they touch. Nathan turned his horse toward the sound. Dry grass brushed against his boots while frozen dirt cracked beneath the hooves. A circle of ravens lifted from the trail ahead, leaving behind a silence that felt wrong. Near a broken freight wagon, he found them. A young woman sat against one wheel with a little girl wrapped tightly in her arms. Their clothes were covered with dust. One blanket lay half buried in the dirt. A cooking pot rested upside down nearby. The horse that had once pulled the wagon was gone. The little girl looked no older than 6. Her pale face was streaked with dirt, and her lips trembled from the cold. The woman tried to rise when she saw Nathan, but one hand pressed against her side. Dark stains covered the fabric beneath her fingers. Nathan stepped closer with both hands, away from his revolver. "My name is Nathan," he said quietly. "I'm not here to harm you." The woman watched him without blinking. "You should keep riding," she answered. "Whoever stops for us ends up in trouble." Nathan looked around the empty trail. "I don't see anyone." "You won't until it's too late." The little girl lifted her head. "Mama, I'm cold." Nathan removed his heavy wool coat and wrapped it around the child before the mother could refuse. The girl disappeared inside the oversized coat, leaving only her tired eyes visible. "My name is Grace," the woman finally said. "This is my daughter, Lily." Nathan noticed the wagon wheel had not simply broken. Deep cuts marked the wood. Someone had smashed it on purpose. Fresh boot prints covered the ground. Too many for only 2 travelers. He crouched beside the wheel without mentioning what he had seen. "Can you stand?" Grace tried. Pain crossed her face before she slowly sank back down. Nathan understood enough. "If you stay here tonight, neither of you will see tomorrow." Grace closed her eyes for a moment. "You don't know who is looking for us." "No." "And you still mean to help?" "Yes." She stared at him, searching for something hidden behind his calm face. Most men wanted payment. Others wanted favors. Some wanted questions answered before offering kindness. Nathan asked for none of those things. Instead, he untied his bedroll from the saddle and spread it across the ground. Carefully, he lifted Lily onto his horse. The little girl rested both hands against the saddle horn and looked down at him. "You smell like horses." Nathan smiled. "I've been told worse." For the first time since he arrived, the child almost smiled back. Grace tried once more to stand. Her knees failed. Nathan caught her before she struck the ground. She became perfectly still, embarrassed more than anything. "I can walk." "I know." Without another word, he helped her into the saddle behind Lily. The ride toward his ranch began beneath a sky painted with fading gold. Nobody spoke. The wind filled every empty space between them. Nathan could feel Grace sitting stiffly behind the child, ready to jump from the horse if she sensed danger. Trust was not something she gave easily. After nearly an hour, smoke appeared above a small valley. A weathered log ranch stood beside a creek lined with cottonwood trees. A red barn leaned slightly with age. Several horses grazed quietly beyond a split-rail fence. Lily leaned forward. "Is that your home?" "It is." "It looks warm." "I hope it feels that way too." Nathan opened the cabin door. Firelight spread across the wooden floor. The smell of fresh bread still lingered from that morning. Grace stopped at the entrance. She looked around every corner before stepping inside. Nathan pretended not to notice. He placed another log onto the fire. Orange flames climbed higher. Lily held both hands toward the warmth with a small sigh that sounded almost too tired for someone her age. Nathan filled a bowl with beef stew and set it before the little girl. She looked toward her mother instead of reaching for the food. Grace gave one slow nod. Only then did Lily begin eating. Nathan quietly poured coffee for Grace. She wrapped both hands around the cup, but never drank. "You've been running a long time," Nathan said. Grace lowered her eyes. "We cannot stay. You can stay tonight. They'll come." Nathan looked through the window into the growing darkness outside. "Then tomorrow," he said softly, "we'll decide what kind of men are coming." At that same moment, far beyond the ranch, 3 riders stopped beside the ruined wagon. One of them climbed down, picked up a tiny blue ribbon lying in the dirt, and smiled without warmth. "They didn't get far," he said. He tucked the ribbon into his pocket, turned his horse toward Nathan's valley, and urged the others forward as the first snowflakes began falling through the dark Wyoming sky. Nathan woke before sunrise to the sound of horses moving outside the barn. He slipped from his chair without making a sound and looked through the frost-covered window. 3 riders stood near the front gate. None of them carried themselves like travelers asking for breakfast. Each man remained in the saddle, watching the cabin instead of the livestock. Nathan quietly stepped away from the window. "Stay inside," he whispered. Grace was already awake. The color had drained from her face. "They found us." Lily sat upright beneath the quilt. Her small hands clutched the edge of the blanket. Nathan rested one hand on the rifle hanging above the fireplace. "Not yet," he said. "Right now, they only know someone lives here." A hard knock struck the front door. Another followed. Then a voice came through the cold morning air. "Morning, neighbor. Mind sharing a little coffee?" Nathan opened the door only a few inches. A broad man with a gray beard smiled politely, but his eyes never smiled. "My name is Wade Mercer," the stranger said. "My friends and I are searching for a widow and a little girl." Nathan leaned against the doorframe. Lots of widows crossed Wyoming. "This one stole something valuable." Nathan remained silent. Wade studied the cabin behind him. "We heard a broken wagon was found yesterday." "I saw one." "And the people?" "I buried what was left." The lie came easily. Wade watched him for several long seconds. Then his gaze dropped toward fresh footprints leading to the porch. Small footprints. A child's. Nathan noticed the same thing the instant Wade did. Neither man mentioned them. Instead, Wade tipped his hat. "If you remember anything else, we'll be nearby. We'll manage." The 3 riders turned away. Their horses disappeared over the hill. Grace hurried to the window. "They know. They suspect. That is enough." Nathan nodded once. "It is." He gathered his saddle and rifle without another word. Grace stepped in front of him. "You cannot fight them." "I don't intend to." "What are you doing?" "Finding out who they really are." Nathan rode toward the broken wagon, while the morning frost still covered the grass. The trail remained marked with deep hoof prints. He studied every sign carefully. One rider had returned during the night. Another had searched the scattered supplies. Near a patch of frozen mud, Nathan found something half buried beneath wagon boards. A silver pocket watch. The back carried fresh scratches. Inside the cover were small engraved letters. E.M. Nathan slipped the watch into his pocket. A few yards farther, he noticed dried blood leading away from the wagon. Not toward the trail, toward the trees. He followed the marks until he reached a shallow creek. There, hidden beneath brush, lay a fresh grave. No cross, no marker, only disturbed earth. Nathan removed his hat. Someone had been buried quickly. Someone the riders never wanted found. Back at the ranch, Grace quietly washed dishes while Lily fed crumbs to sparrows outside the kitchen window. Neither spoke much. Finally, Nathan returned. His boots carried fresh mud. His face carried new questions. "You found something," Grace said. Nathan placed the silver watch onto the table. Grace stared at it. Her fingers slowly covered her mouth. "Where did you get this?" "Near your wagon." Tears filled her eyes. "That belonged to my brother. You told me yesterday you traveled alone." I lied. Nathan waited. Grace lowered herself into a chair. "My brother Ethan traveled with us. He drove the wagon. He tried protecting Lily." Her voice nearly failed. "They caught him. Lily saw everything." Nathan looked toward the little girl. She sat outside humming softly while birds gathered around her feet. "Where is Ethan now?" Grace closed her eyes. "They killed him. They wanted something he refused to give them." Nathan thought about the lonely grave beside the creek. "I'm sorry." Grace slowly reached beneath her dress. From a cloth pouch hidden around her waist, she removed a folded paper. "I could not tell you before." Nathan opened it. The page showed rough drawings, roads, river crossings, mining camps. One place had been circled several times. Black Ridge Mine. "What is this?" "My husband worked there. I thought he was only a bookkeeper." "He wasn't." Grace looked toward the window to make sure Lily could not hear. "He helped hide payroll gold stolen from railroad workers." Nathan looked back at the map. "The men outside want the gold." Grace nodded. "My husband died before telling them where it was." "But he told you." "He drew this map." Nathan understood everything. The riders were not chasing a helpless widow. They were chasing enough stolen gold to change many lives. "Do you know where Black Ridge is?" "I only know the map." Nathan spread it across the table. His finger followed the trails. Then he stopped. "It isn't pointing toward a mine." Grace frowned. "What do you mean?" "It points toward Eagle Pass." "There has never been a mine there." Nathan smiled for the first time that day. "Exactly." Someone knocked again. Not loudly. Only twice. Nathan quietly folded the map. He looked through the window. An old preacher sat alone on a mule. His black coat was covered with dust. The man raised one hand. "I bring news," he called. Nathan stepped outside. The preacher leaned closer. "I passed 3 armed riders. They asked if I'd seen a rancher hiding a woman and child." Nathan's jaw tightened. "What did you tell them?" "I told them the truth." "What truth?" The old man looked straight into Nathan's eyes. "I told them they were already too late." Before Nathan could answer, a single rifle shot echoed from the hills. The cabin window exploded behind him. Lily screamed. Grace threw herself over her daughter. Nathan spun toward the ridge and saw sunlight flashing against a rifle barrel high above the valley. Someone had never left after all. Someone had been watching the ranch every minute. Nathan dropped behind the porch railing as another bullet tore through the cabin wall. Splinters filled the air. Lily buried her face against Grace. The old preacher pulled his frightened mule behind the barn and hurried toward the house without waiting for permission. "There are only 2 on the ridge," he shouted. "I saw the 3rd ride toward Eagle Pass." Nathan looked at the map lying on the table. Everything suddenly fit together. The attack was only a distraction. One rider had already gone to the real hiding place. "If he reaches Eagle Pass first," Grace whispered, "he'll find the gold." Nathan nodded. "And once he has it, he won't leave witnesses." He turned to the preacher. "Can you protect them?" The old man answered without hesitation. "I've carried a Bible for 30 years. Then he opened his coat. A worn revolver rested beneath it. "And I've carried this even longer." Nathan gave one quick smile. "That will do." He saddled his buckskin and rode hard toward Eagle Pass, while rifle fire continued behind him. The narrow trail twisted through pine trees and broken cliffs. Fresh hoofprints cut deep into the damp earth. The rider ahead had pushed his horse fast. Nathan urged Scout forward. Cold wind rushed across the rocks. Clouds rolled low over the mountains. The first snow of the season drifted across the trail. Near the top of the pass, Nathan spotted movement. A lone rider had stopped beside a pile of fallen stones. The man jumped from his saddle and began pulling away loose rocks. Nathan recognized Wade Mercer immediately. Wade heard the approaching horse and turned. "So you figured it out?" Nathan stopped several yards away. "It was never about the wagon. No, it was always about the gold." Wade laughed quietly. "Your widow nearly escaped with a fortune." He lifted a small iron box from beneath the stones. The chest was heavy enough to require both hands. "This belongs to people far more dangerous than either of us." Nathan climbed down from Scout. "It belongs to the families who earned it." Wade drew his revolver. "I was hoping you'd say something noble." Nathan kept his own hands away from his weapon. "You don't have to finish this." "I do. You've seen my face." The mountain grew silent. Only the wind moved between them. Wade stepped backward toward his horse with the iron chest. Nathan watched his boots, watched the loose stones beneath them. One more step. That was all it took. The rocks shifted. Wade lost his balance. The heavy chest slipped from his hands and crashed against the ground. Gold coins burst across the hillside like scattered sunlight. Wade lunged toward them. Nathan moved first. He tackled the outlaw before either man reached a weapon. The two rolled across frozen ground. Dust and snow mixed together. Wade struck Nathan across the jaw. Nathan answered with one hard punch. The revolver slid several feet away. Neither man reached it. The fight became simple. Hands, boots, breath, stone. Wade grabbed a hunting knife from his belt. The blade flashed once. Nathan caught his wrist with both hands. The knife hovered inches from his chest. Every muscle strained. The wind screamed across the ridge. Scout suddenly charged forward. The loyal horse slammed into Wade's shoulder. The outlaw lost his footing. His knife flew into the snow. Nathan shoved him backward. Wade stumbled against the edge of the rocky slope. He reached for anything solid. His fingers caught nothing. With one final cry, he disappeared into the deep canyon below. Silence returned. Nathan stood breathing heavily. The scattered gold glittered across the white ground. None of it mattered. He gathered every coin back into the iron chest. By sunset, he returned to the ranch. Grace ran across the yard before his horse stopped. She searched his face. Then she saw the iron chest. "It's over?" Nathan placed the chest on the porch. "It is now." The territorial marshal arrived the following afternoon with several deputies after the preacher carried news to the nearest town. The stolen gold was counted, recorded, and prepared for return to the railroad workers and their families. Not one coin stayed at the ranch. Grace watched the wagon carrying the treasure disappear down the road. She never asked for a single dollar. Several weeks passed. Winter settled gently across the valley. Smoke curled from the chimney each morning. Lily filled the quiet ranch with laughter that had once seemed impossible. One evening, she handed Nathan a folded piece of paper. "I made this." He opened it carefully. It showed 3 people standing beside a small ranch. Above them, in uneven letters, Lily had written one sentence: "Home." Nathan looked toward Grace. She stood in the doorway with snow resting on her shoulders. "You don't have to leave," she said softly. Nathan looked across the peaceful valley. For the first time in many years, the silence no longer felt empty. He stepped onto the porch beside them as fresh snow covered the trail where strangers had once brought danger. No riders appeared on the horizon. Only 3 quiet figures stood together, while the evening light settled over the Wyoming hills, and the cabin windows glowed warmly against the long winter night.